Commander Zix Thala stared at the screen with growing horror. The images from the survey team made her stomach turn. On the planet below, small creatures ran wild through the streets. They climbed impossible heights without fear. They attacked each other with sticks and threw objects at targets. Most shocking of all, the adult creatures seemed to encourage this behavior. "Are you certain these are juveniles?" she asked the scout who had brought the report. Scout leader Meltok nodded his blue head. "Yes, Commander. Our scans confirm they are roughly 1/4 the size of adult humans. But look at this footage." The screen changed to show a group of small humans in what appeared to be a combat arena. They wore protective gear and struck each other with their fists, while crowds of adults watched and cheered. Some of the tiny warriors fell down, but got back up to continue fighting. "This is a breeding ground for soldiers," Dr. Velthari said from her seat at the science station. "These creatures are training their young for warfare from the moment they can walk." Zixthala watched as the camera followed one small human leaving the combat zone. The creature was no taller than her waist, but it moved with the confidence of a seasoned hunter. When it encountered a large four-legged beast in the street, it did not run. Instead, it approached the animal and grabbed it around the neck. "By the void," she whispered. "It's strangling a predator twice its size." "Actually, Commander," Meltok said carefully, "our translation systems indicate the human young are engaging in what they call play. But we cannot understand how this level of violence qualifies as recreational activity." The footage continued. Groups of human children chased each other through dangerous terrain. They leaped from high places into water below. They constructed weapons from sticks and engaged in organized battles. When one fell and appeared injured, the others did not show mercy. They simply continued their assault. Dr. Velthari pulled up another file. "Observe this behavior pattern," she said, pointing to a recording of human young in an enclosed area. "They divide into two groups and attempt to control territory by moving a spherical object past defensive lines. When contact occurs between opposing forces, they collide with tremendous force. Yet they appear to enjoy the violence. The adults encourage this," Zixthala noted with disgust. "Look how they gather in large numbers to witness these battles between their offspring." On screen, thousands of adult humans sat in rows around a field where their young engaged in ritualistic combat. The adults made loud noises and displayed aggressive gestures when their favored warriors succeeded in their attacks. "We have documented over 50 different forms of combat training disguised as games," Meltok reported. "The humans begin conditioning their young for warfare before they reach half-adult size. By the time they mature, they will be perfect killing machines." Engineer Korvex spoke up from his workstation. "Commander, I have analyzed their physical capabilities. These juveniles can survive falls that would kill most adult species. They show no fear response to dangerous situations. Their pain tolerance appears to be extremely high." "Show me the climbing behavior again," Zixthala ordered. The screen displayed footage of human children scaling vertical rock faces using only their small hands and feet. They moved upward without safety equipment while adults watched from below. When one child lost grip and fell, it landed on the ground, stood up, and immediately began climbing again. "No normal species would allow their young to engage in such risky behavior," Dr. Velthari observed, "unless they are conditioning them to ignore survival instincts. Or they produce so many offspring that losing a few to training accidents is acceptable," Korvex suggested grimly. Zixthala felt cold dread settling in her chest. "What about their interaction with other species?" Meltok activated another file. "This is where it gets worse, Commander." The footage showed human children interacting with various Earth animals. But instead of the fear response normal young showed toward predators, these human cubs actively sought out dangerous creatures. They rode on the backs of large beasts. They handled venomous serpents. They even invaded the dens of fierce carnivores. They have no survival instincts at all, she breathed. Worse than that, Dr. Velthari said. Watch what happens when they encounter creatures their own size. The screen showed human children meeting young animals in what appeared to be controlled environments. Instead of peaceful coexistence, the humans immediately established dominance. They grabbed the animal young and forced them into submission through physical contact. They're practicing conquest techniques, Zixthala realized. They dominate other species' offspring to prepare for larger campaigns. The implications are terrifying, Dr. Velthari continued. If these creatures are this aggressive as juveniles, imagine what they become as adults. We could be looking at the most dangerous predator species in the galaxy. Corvex brought up tactical displays. Our analysis suggests a single adult human could overpower 3 Vrylon warriors. If they're training from childhood, an adult human might be equivalent to an entire combat unit. And they appear to reproduce rapidly, Meltok added. We estimate their population in the billions. Billions of combat-trained predators. Zixthala stood and began pacing. Have we detected any weapons technology? Primitive by our standards, Corvex replied. But given their apparent physical capabilities and lack of fear, they might not need advanced technology to pose a threat. What concerns me most, Dr. Velthari said quietly, is their pack behavior. These juveniles coordinate their attacks. They work in groups to overcome larger opponents. They're not just individual predators. They're developing military tactics. The commander stopped pacing and stared at the screen where human children continued their various forms of combat training. Some threw spherical objects at high speed toward targets. Others swung wooden clubs at small white spheres. Still others engaged in elaborate chase sequences that looked suspiciously like patrol and evasion drills. Send an immediate message to the High Council, she ordered. Recommend immediate quarantine of this entire system. No ship goes within 3 light years of this planet. What classification should I assign? Meltok asked. Zixthala watched as a human child no bigger than her arm successfully wrestled a creature twice its size to the ground, while other young humans cheered encouragement. Class Omega, she said firmly. Maximum threat level. If these predator cubs ever leave their world, they could conquer the galaxy. Captain Nixavera felt her ship shake violently as another explosion rocked the engine room. Red warning lights flashed across every surface, while alarms screamed through the corridors. Her small research vessel was dying, and there was nothing she could do to save it. Engine core is failing, Engineer Tokbal shouted over the noise. We have maybe 10 minutes before complete system collapse. Can we reach the nearest space station? Nixavera asked, though she already knew the answer. Negative. We're too close to the quarantine zone. The only planet within range is the human world. Nixavera felt ice form in her stomach. Of all the places in the galaxy to crash, they were heading toward the most dangerous predator world ever discovered. The planet where warrior children trained for conquest from the moment they could walk. What about the escape pods? Junior scientist Rindy checked her instruments. 2 pods are damaged beyond use. The third might work, but it only holds 1 person. Then you take it, Nixavera ordered. Get back to the fleet and warn them what happened. I won't abandon my crew, she replied firmly. We face this together. Another explosion shook the ship. Through the view screen, the blue and green planet grew larger as they fell toward its surface. Somewhere down there, billions of predator creatures waited. The adult humans would be bad enough, but the intelligence reports about their young still gave Nixavera nightmares. Brace for impact, she called out as the atmosphere began burning around their hull. The crash came in stages. First, the ship hit the upper atmosphere and began glowing like a falling star. Then the stabilizers failed, sending them into a wild spin. Finally, they struck the ground with tremendous force, bouncing twice before sliding to a stop in a forest clearing. Nixavera woke up some time later with her head pounding and green blood trickling down her face. The ship was dark and silent except for the hiss of escaping gas and the crackle of electrical fires. "Tokbal? Rinde?" she called out weakly. "Here, Captain," came Tokbal's voice from somewhere in the darkness. "I'm trapped under some debris, but I think I'm okay." "I can move," Rinde reported, "but our communications are dead, and most of our equipment is destroyed." Nixavera managed to free herself from her damaged seat and helped pull Tokbal out from under a collapsed beam. His leg was clearly broken, but he was alive. Rinde had cuts across her arms, but could walk. "We need to get away from the ship," Nixavera said. "If the humans saw us crash, they'll be coming to investigate." They gathered what supplies they could carry and limped away from the wreckage. Tokbal leaned heavily on Rinde as they made their way into the thick forest. Behind them, smoke rose from their destroyed vessel. "Captain," Rinde whispered urgently, "I hear voices." Through the trees, they could see lights moving toward the crash site. Human voices carried on the wind, speaking in the harsh tones of predators who had found prey. Nixavera caught glimpses of tall figures moving between the trees with the confident stride of apex hunters. "This way," she hissed, leading her crew deeper into the forest. They found a small cave hidden behind some rocks and took shelter inside. From their hiding place, they could hear the humans discovering their ship. The voices grew louder and more excited as the predators examined the alien technology. "They're probably planning how to use our weapons against other species," Tokbal whispered grimly. "Quiet," Nixavera warned. "They might have enhanced hearing." Hours passed as they huddled in the cave, listening to the humans search the area around the crash site. Several times, footsteps came dangerously close to their hiding spot, but somehow the predators missed finding them. As morning light began filtering through the cave entrance, Rinde carefully peered outside. "I think they've moved away from this area," she reported, "but I can still hear voices in the distance." "We need water and medical supplies," Nixavera said, looking at Tokbal's swollen leg. "But we can't risk encountering the humans." "Captain," Rinde said nervously, "there's something moving outside." They all froze as footsteps approached the cave. But these were different from the heavy tread of adult humans. These steps were lighter, smaller, but still confident and fearless. A small figure appeared at the cave entrance, silhouetted against the morning light. Nixavera's blood turned to ice as she realized what they were facing. It was one of the predator cubs they had studied in the intelligence reports. A human child, no taller than Nixavera's waist, stood at the mouth of their hiding place. The creature had pale skin and brown hair tied back from its face. It wore simple clothing and carried a small pack on its back. Most terrifying of all, it showed no fear as it looked directly at three alien beings who were clearly not from its world. "Oh no," the child said in its high-pitched voice. "You're hurt." Nixavera pressed herself back against the cave wall. According to the reports, human young were even more dangerous than adults because they had not yet learned to control their aggressive instincts. This predator cub could kill them all without breaking stride. But instead of attacking, the small human did something completely unexpected. It slowly sat down at the cave entrance and carefully placed its pack on the ground. Moving with deliberate slowness, it reached into the pack and pulled out a clear container filled with liquid. "Here," the child said, holding out the container. "You look thirsty." Nixavera stared in shock. This was not the behavior the intelligence reports had predicted. The predator cub was not launching an immediate attack. Instead, it appeared to be offering assistance. "I won't hurt you," the small human continued, apparently noticing their fear. "My name is Amy. I was camping with my dad when we saw your ship crash last night. Are you okay?" Rinde translated the words using her damaged universal communicator. The meaning was clear, but it made no sense. Why would a predator cub offer help to potential prey? The adults don't know you're here, Amy continued, still holding out the water container. They're all back at your ship trying to figure out what it is, but I thought maybe someone was hurt, so I came looking. Tokbal whispered urgently to Nix Vera. This could be a trap. Maybe the young ones lure prey into false security before the adults arrive for the kill. But as they watched, the small human simply waited patiently, keeping the water container extended toward them. There was something in its expression that Nix Vera had never seen in a predator before. It looked almost like concern. Please, Amy said softly. I just want to help. Amy could see that the strange beings were afraid of her, which made her feel sad. They pressed themselves against the back wall of the cave like scared animals. The blue one with the broken leg was breathing hard, and green liquid dripped from cuts on their faces. It's okay, she said gently, keeping her voice low. I'm not going to hurt you. She had never seen aliens before, but her dad always taught her to help anyone who was hurt. These creatures looked hurt and scared, so helping them seemed like the right thing to do. Very slowly, she scooted closer to them and placed the water bottle on the ground between them. Then she backed away to give them space. After a few minutes, the smallest alien reached out and took the bottle. Amy smiled when she saw them drink from it. That's good, she said. You need water when you're hurt. The sun was getting higher in the sky, and Amy knew her dad would be looking for her soon. She had told him she was going to explore the creek, but that was hours ago. Still, these aliens needed help, and she couldn't just leave them here. Your leg looks really bad, she said to the blue alien. I have some bandages in my pack. She pulled out her first aid kit and showed them the white cloth strips inside. The aliens talked to each other in their strange language, making clicking and humming sounds. Finally, the smallest one held up a small device and spoke into it. We appreciate your kindness, a mechanical voice said from the device. But we do not understand why you help us. Because you're hurt, Amy said simply, and because you're scared. She opened her backpack wider and showed them what else she had brought. Energy bars, more water bottles, a small blanket, and a flashlight. I thought you might be hungry too. The aliens looked at each other in what seemed like amazement. Amy couldn't understand why they were so surprised. Helping hurt people was just normal. Are you going to tell the adult humans where we are? The voice from the device asked. Amy thought about this carefully. The grown-ups back at the crash site had been very excited about finding alien technology. They were probably planning to call the government or the military. These aliens seemed scared of that happening. Not if you don't want me to, she said. But you really need a doctor for that broken leg. We prefer to remain hidden, the voice replied. Okay, Amy said. Then I'll stay here and help you myself. She could see the shock on their faces when her words were translated. The blue one with the hurt leg made several rapid clicking sounds. You would stay with us, even though we are not your species? Of course, Amy said. You need help and I know how to take care of hurt people. My mom is a nurse. As the day went on, Amy did her best to make the aliens comfortable. She used her water to clean their cuts and wrapped their wounds with her bandages. The blue one's leg was definitely broken, so she found 2 straight sticks and tied them around his leg to keep it still. This is called a splint, she explained as she worked. It keeps broken bones from moving around so they can heal. The aliens watched everything she did with intense interest. They seemed amazed that a human child knew how to provide medical care. When evening came, Amy heard her dad calling her name from far away. She wanted to answer him, but she couldn't leave the aliens alone when they were so hurt and scared. My dad is looking for me, she told them, but I won't tell him where you are. You should go to your family, the device translated. We do not wish to cause problems for you. No, Amy said firmly. I'm staying. You're hurt, and it's not safe to be alone when you're hurt." She built a small fire using dry wood and her waterproof matches. The aliens seemed fascinated by the flames, and she noticed they moved closer to the warmth as the air got colder. "Fire keeps away wild animals," she explained, "and it helps you feel better when you're cold." As if to prove her point, howling sounds echoed through the forest. The aliens huddled closer together, their eyes wide with fear. "Those are coyotes," Amy said calmly. "They usually don't bother people, but they might be curious about your scent since you smell different." The howling got closer, and soon Amy could see glowing eyes reflecting the firelight at the edge of the forest. 4 coyotes had found their camp and were slowly moving closer. The aliens were clearly terrified. The blue one with the broken leg couldn't run, and the others wouldn't leave him behind. Amy could see they thought they were all going to die. But Amy wasn't scared of coyotes. Her dad had taught her how to deal with wild animals. She stood up and grabbed a burning stick from the fire. "Stay back," she called to the aliens. "I'll handle this." She walked toward the coyotes, holding the burning stick high and making herself look as big as possible. "Get out of here!" she shouted loudly. "Go on! Get!" The coyotes stopped moving forward, but they didn't run away either. They were still curious about the strange smells coming from the cave. Amy picked up a rock and threw it hard at the nearest coyote. It hit the animal in the shoulder and it yelped, backing away a few steps, but the others moved to spread out around the camp. "You want to fight?" Amy said, grabbing her camping knife with her free hand. "Come on then!" She charged toward the largest coyote, waving the burning stick and yelling at the top of her lungs. The animal was bigger than she was, but her sudden aggressive move surprised it. It jumped back with a startled bark. Amy kept advancing, making as much noise as possible and swinging the fire back and forth. One of the smaller coyotes tried to circle behind her, but she spun around and threw another rock that caught it right in the nose. After a few more minutes of Amy's loud, aggressive display, the coyotes decided this small human was too much trouble. They trotted away into the darkness, their howls fading as they moved to hunt somewhere else. Amy stood there breathing hard, still holding her knife and the burning stick. Behind her, she heard the aliens talking rapidly in their language. "That was incredible," the translation device said. "You drove away predators much larger than yourself." "They weren't that big," Amy said, walking back to the fire. "And they were just curious anyway. Coyotes don't usually attack people unless they're really desperate." She sat down next to the aliens again and added more wood to the fire. "See? I told you I'd keep you safe." The smallest alien looked at her for a long time before speaking into the device. "We do not understand," the translation came. "Why would you risk your safety to protect strangers?" Amy thought this was a strange question. "Because that's what you do," she said. "When someone needs help, you help them. That's just normal." She pulled her small blanket out of her pack and spread it over the blue alien with the broken leg. "Try to get some sleep. I'll keep the fire going and watch for more animals." As the aliens settled down for the night, Amy sat by the fire and listened to the sounds of the forest. She hoped her dad wasn't too worried about her, but she knew she was doing the right thing. These aliens needed her help, and she wouldn't abandon them. Rindy could not sleep. She sat by the dying fire, watching the human child named Amy as she dozed against a rock. Everything she had been taught about humans was wrong, and this realization shook her to her core. The predator cub had spent the entire night protecting them. When the fire got low, Amy woke up and added more wood without being asked. When Takabal groaned from pain in his broken leg, Amy gave him more water and checked his bandages. When strange sounds came from the forest, Amy stayed alert and ready to defend them again. This was not the behavior of a young predator training for conquest. This was something else entirely. "Captain," Rindy whispered to Nixavera, who was also awake. "I need to revise my report about human behavior." "What do you mean?" Nixavera asked quietly. Watch her, Rindy said, pointing to Amy. She has not shown a single aggressive behavior toward us. Every action has been focused on our welfare and protection. As if hearing her name, Amy stirred and opened her eyes. She immediately looked around the camp to check for danger, then crawled over to where Talkaball was sleeping. How are you feeling? She asked softly, not wanting to wake the others. Talkaball's translation device picked up her words. Better. Thanks to you, he replied through the machine. Good, Amy said. I brought more pain medicine from my first aid kit. She showed him 2 small white tablets. These will help with the hurt. Talkbal looked at Nix Vera, who nodded. He took the tablets and swallowed them with water from Amy's bottle. Why do you carry medicine? Rindy asked through her own translation device. My mom always packs first aid stuff when I go camping, Amy explained. She says you never know when someone might get hurt and need help. Your mother teaches you to help others? Nix Vera asked, her scientific curiosity overcoming her caution. Sure, Amy said, as if this was obvious. Everyone should help when they can. That's what good people do. Rindy translated this exchange for the others. The concept of teaching young to help strangers was completely foreign to Vrelong culture, where offspring were taught to prioritize their own survival above all else. As the morning sun grew stronger, Amy heard familiar voices calling her name through the forest. Her father had brought a search party to look for her. Amy, where are you? Came a male voice from not far away. That's my dad, Amy told the aliens. I have to answer him or he'll worry even more. Will you tell him about us? Nixavera asked nervously. Amy considered this. He's going to ask where I've been all night. I don't like lying to my dad. Please, Talkball said through his device. We are afraid of what your people will do to us. Amy looked at his injured leg and then at the fear in all their eyes. Okay, she decided. I'll tell him I got lost and spent the night in the cave. But you guys need to stay hidden until I can talk to him. She walked out of the cave and called back to her father. Dad, I'm over here. I'm okay. Within minutes, Amy's father, Ben, arrived with Dr. Lisa White and 2 other adults from town. They all hugged Amy and checked to make sure she wasn't hurt. Where have you been? Ben asked, his voice full of worry and relief. We've been searching all night. I got lost trying to follow that shooting star, Amy said, which was technically true. I found this cave and stayed here because I remembered you said to stay in one place if I ever got lost. That was smart thinking, Dr. White said, examining Amy for injuries. But you must have been cold and scared all alone. I was okay, Amy said. I had my camping gear. The adults spent several minutes making sure Amy was unhurt before they started walking back toward town. But Amy stopped after a few steps. Dad, she said carefully, what if you found someone who was hurt and scared, but they were really different from us? Would you still help them? Ben looked puzzled by the question. Of course I would, sweetheart. Why do you ask? Just wondering, Amy said, because I think being different doesn't matter if someone needs help. You're absolutely right, Dr. White agreed. A doctor helps anyone who's hurt no matter where they come from or what they look like. Even if they were from really far away, Amy pressed, like from another country or something? Even then, Ben confirmed. Good people help others when they can. That's what we taught you, isn't it? Amy smiled. Yeah, that's what you taught me. That evening, Amy snuck back to the cave with more supplies. She brought food, medicine, and clean bandages that she had quietly taken from Dr. White's medical bag. I talked to my dad and Dr. White, she told the aliens. They said good people help anyone who needs it, even if they're from far away and look different. You told them about us? Nixavera asked with alarm. Not yet, Amy said. But I think they would help you if they knew. Dr. White is a doctor. She could fix your leg properly." "We are still afraid," Talkball admitted. "Your people might see us as threats." Amy sat down next to them and shared the food she had brought. "Can I ask you something? Are you here to hurt people?" "No," Rindy said immediately. "We are scientists. We study other worlds and species, but we do not harm them." "Then you don't have anything to worry about," Amy said confidently. "My dad is the sheriff. He protects people from bad guys, but he wouldn't hurt someone who wasn't dangerous." Over the next few days, Amy continued caring for the aliens while they recovered from their injuries. She brought them food and water, changed their bandages, and kept them company so they wouldn't be lonely. She also told them about human life. She explained how families worked, how children went to school to learn, and how communities helped take care of each other. When Mrs. Henderson broke her hip last winter, Amy said, everyone in town brought her food and helped clean her house until she got better. Nobody asked for anything back. They just helped because she needed it. "This is normal behavior for your species?" Rindy asked. "Well, yeah," Amy said. "I mean, there are some mean people in the world, but most humans try to be good to each other." "What about the fighting behavior we observed in human young?" Nixvera asked carefully. Amy laughed. "You mean like sports and stuff? That's just playing. It's fun and it helps us get stronger and learn to work together. But it appears violent and aggressive," Rindy pointed out. "I guess it looks that way," Amy admitted. "But we're not trying to hurt each other. We're just playing games. Like when puppies wrestle. They look like they're fighting, but they're really just having fun and learning." This comparison shocked the aliens. They had interpreted human play behavior as combat training, but Amy explained it as social bonding and skill development. "So when human children engage in these activities, they are not preparing for war?" Talkball asked. "War?" Amy looked confused. "No, we're just playing. Learning to be strong so we can protect people we care about, maybe. But not war." As the aliens' injuries healed and their understanding of humans grew, they began to realize how badly they had misunderstood human nature. The species they had feared as galaxy-conquering predators were actually a highly social group focused on protecting and caring for others. Amy had shown them something that would change everything their people believed about humanity. Captain Nixvera stood at the edge of the forest clearing where their ship had crashed. Tokbal leaned on a walking stick that Amy had made for him, his leg finally healing properly. Rindy carried a pack full of notes and recordings that would change everything the galaxy thought about humans. It had been 2 weeks since the crash, and Amy had convinced them to meet her father and Dr. White. The introduction had gone better than any of them had expected. "Well, I'll be," Ben had said, when he first saw the aliens step out from behind the trees. Amy wasn't making up stories after all. Dr. White had immediately focused on Tuckball's injury. "That leg needs proper medical attention," she said, just as Amy had predicted. "Let me take a look at it." Now, as they prepared to signal for rescue, Nixvera felt sad to leave this place. The humans had treated them not as threats or curiosities, but as guests who needed help. "Are you sure you have to go?" Amy asked, sitting on a fallen log nearby. "I was just starting to learn your language." "Our people are probably very worried," Rindy explained. "We need to let them know we are safe." "Plus," Tokbal added with what humans would recognize as a smile, "we need to tell them the truth about humans." Amy looked confused. "What do you mean?" Nixvera sat down next to the young human who had saved their lives. "Amy, before we met you, my people thought humans were dangerous. We thought human children were being trained as warriors." "That's silly," Amy said. "Kids aren't warriors. We're just kids." "Yes," Nixvera said gently. "We know that now. But we need to tell the rest of our people so they won't be afraid anymore." Amy's face lit up. Does that mean more of your people can come visit? I'd like to meet them. Maybe someday, Rindy said. But first we need to change some very old ideas. Dr. White approached the group carrying her medical bag. I've prepared some extra supplies for your journey, she told Talkball. And instructions for caring for that leg until you reach your own doctors. Thank you, Talkball said, accepting the bag. Your kindness has been unexpected. Not unexpected, Ben corrected, walking up behind the doctor. Just human. That evening, Amy's family hosted a farewell dinner for the aliens. The whole town had gradually learned about their visitors, and instead of fear or hostility, the humans had shown curiosity and hospitality. I still can't believe you stayed with them in the forest all night, Amy's mother said as they sat around the dinner table. Weren't you scared? They were hurt, Amy said simply. You always told me to help hurt people. But they're aliens, her mother pointed out. Amy shrugged. So? They were still hurt? Nixvera translated this exchange for her crew, and they all made notes. The casual way humans accepted the obligation to help others, even strangers from other worlds, was remarkable. Captain, Rindy said quietly, I've been thinking about our original observations. We saw human children playing combat games and assumed they were training for aggression. And now? Nixvera asked. Now I realize they were training for protection. Amy drove off those coyotes not because she enjoyed violence, but because she was protecting us. Human play teaches them to be guardians, not conquerors. The next morning, they activated their emergency beacon. Within hours, a Vrillon rescue ship appeared in the sky above the town. Many of the humans came out to watch the landing, but instead of the fear or aggression the aliens had expected, the humans seemed excited and curious. It's like a real flying saucer, one child said with obvious delight. Are there more people like you inside? Another asked Rinde. Yes, she replied through her translator. My friends have come to take us home. As the rescue team emerged from their ship, Nixvera could see their shock at finding the crashed crew not only alive, but apparently well treated by the humans. The rescue commander approached cautiously, clearly expecting trouble. Captain Nixvera, he said formally, we are relieved to find you alive. Have the humans harmed you? Quite the opposite, she replied. They saved our lives and cared for us. The rescue commander looked around at the gathering of human adults and children. These are the dangerous predators we were warned about? Commander, Nixvera said firmly, we need to have a long talk about our intelligence reports. Amy stepped forward and looked up at the new alien. Hello, she said politely. Welcome to Earth. The commander stared down at this small human who showed no fear of beings twice her size. This is one of their warrior cubs. This is Amy, Nixvera said with pride in her voice. She is brave and kind, and probably the reason your crew is still alive. On the journey back to Vrillon space, Nixvera recorded her official report. She documented everything they had learned about human behavior, with special focus on how their apparent aggression was actually protective behavior. Human children are not trained for conquest, she spoke into the recording device. They are taught to protect others and provide help to those in need. Their physical courage and lack of fear response develops not to make them better attackers, but to make them better defenders of their communities. She paused, remembering Amy's simple explanation for her actions. You help because that's what good people do. I recommend immediate revision of human threat assessment, she continued. Classification should be changed from hostile predator to protective ally. Human behavior indicates a species that would fight fiercely to defend others, but would not initiate aggression against peaceful neighbors. When they reached the Vrillon homeworld, Nixvera's report caused immediate controversy. Many military leaders refused to believe that their intelligence about humans could be so completely wrong. You were clearly manipulated by human psychological warfare, Admiral Kethmore argued. They used their young as weapons against your sympathy. Amy was 8 years old, Nixvera replied calmly. She shared her food, tended our wounds, and risked her life to protect us from wild animals. If that was manipulation, it was the kindest manipulation in galactic history. Dr. Velthari studied the new data carefully. Captain, you claim human children learn protective behavior through play. Can you elaborate? Their games teach cooperation, problem-solving, and physical courage, Nixvera explained. They compete with each other to become stronger and smarter, but the ultimate goal is to be able to help others. Amy drove off predators twice her size because her people had taught her that protecting others was more important than her own safety. The debate continued for months, but gradually more evidence supported Nixvera's conclusions. Other survey teams were sent to observe human behavior from a safe distance, and they confirmed the new interpretation. Human children were not being trained as conquerors. They were being raised as guardians. The galactic quarantine around Earth was finally lifted after a year of careful study. The first official contact mission was led by Captain Nixvera, with specific instructions to make contact with the human child who had changed everything. When their ship landed in the same field where they had been rescued, Amy was among the first humans to greet them. She had grown taller in the months since they left, but her smile was exactly the same. "You came back," she said happily, running toward Nixvera. "We promised we would," the captain replied, kneeling down to Amy's level. "And we brought some friends who wanted to meet you." Behind Nixvera, a delegation of Vrelon scientists and diplomats watched in amazement as this small human greeted alien visitors with joy instead of fear. "Amy," Nixvera said formally, "I would like you to meet the Galactic Council's ambassador to Earth." The ambassador, a tall Vrelon with elaborate ceremonial robes, bowed deeply to the 8-year-old human. "It is an honor to meet the being who taught the galaxy the true meaning of courage," he said through his translator. Amy looked confused. "I just helped some friends who were hurt," she said. "That's not special. That's just normal." And in those simple words, the ambassador understood why humans were destined to become not conquerors of the galaxy, but its protectors.